Real quickly before the video starts, I want to say that I do very little editing. This is all basically off the top of my head. And towards the end of this video, a lot of stuff came out that I had not intended on talking about, resentments I had that I had forgotten I had. So just know this is not some edited, curated video. It's off the top of my head. I hope you enjoy it. Everybody, welcome back. Velkommen tillbaka. Tack for sist. That's welcome back, and thank you for the last time if you speak Norwegian. I'm originally from Norway. So if you're digging the videos, a thumb up and a subscription is much appreciated. If you just want to watch a little bit and slide on by, that's cool too. You do you. So I've done 2 videos about what I believe are misconceptions about the Mormon Church in the last week or so. Excuse me. And it occurred to me after watching some other YouTube videos with people with similar experiences that I should probably share my story of why I left personally. My parents joined the Mormon Church when we lived in Norway. I was just a tiny kid when they joined. So I basically grew up in the Mormon Church, and I think one of the big reasons we moved to Canada was to be in a community with other LDS people, because there's not a lot of them in Norway. Our little community of LDS people in Stavanger, Norway was probably 30 or 40 people at that time. Even now, I don't think it's very big. But so I got baptized at 8 years old. I had already been baptized in a Lutheran church in Norway, as a baby. But I got baptized at 8. I went on a Mormon mission. I went through all the steps, became a deacon, a teacher, a priest, an elder. If you are familiar with the workings of the church, and maybe sometime I'll do kind of a video about explaining how you progress through that. I watched the guy this morning, Johnny Harris, I think his name is, huge YouTube guy, but he told his story and it kind of inspired me to tell mine. So I did all those steps. I got married in the Mormon temple up in Salt Lake City, the iconic one. You've probably all seen it, Temple Square. It's an amazing building. It's beautiful inside too, but I did all of that. My first wife and I were pretty regular going to church, but honestly, before I went on my mission, they changed it to 18 months, and that's the main reason I went, because I didn't want to go for 2 years. I didn't want to go on a mission at all. But there's a lot of pressure. You don't have to go on a mission. There's no requirement to do that. But there's definitely some people that are disappointed. My parents would have been disappointed, no question. So I decided to do it, and I was very happy when I got called to go back to Norway. Got to relearn the language, get to know my relatives. I have a lot of relatives there. So I have no regrets about that. I don't look back on that period and think, what a waste of time. I learned some serious skills there. I was not afraid to talk to people after that. You get so much abuse as a Mormon missionary. You have no idea. At least there we did. I mean, there were people that slammed doors in our face, spit on us, call us names. And you just have to take it. It's just part of the deal. So the first couple of months out there, I was so miserable, so unhappy, so depressed. The guy, your companion that you serve with, you get them switched around every few months. But the first one I was with was just I won't use a bad word. He was not a good guy. I did not like him. I wanted to beat the crap out of the guy most days. But it made it a very hard, depressing time. I would cry myself to sleep every night as a 19-year-old man. And it was just really sad. And if I had a way to pay to get back home, I would have flown home. I would have quit right then. But as a missionary, they fly you over there and they fly you home when you're done. But all the other expenses, it's on you and your family. So if I wanted to fly home, I had to pay for it, and I had no money. So I did that whole thing, and it ended up being a really good experience. I got together with other guys that were cool, and I got along with, and I ended up being friends. So I'm glad I stuck it out. But when I got back, I went to first Rick's College, which is now BYU, Idaho. And then I went to BYU, which is where I graduated. And, I did all the steps. I met the girl. I got married when I was 25, which in the religion at that time, I was an old man. People were like, why aren't you married? I'm like, I'm 25 years old. What the hell? But I did it. She was 19 at the time. We were actually good friends. And then we started dating. And next thing I know, we're getting married. Neither one of us wanted to marry the other one. We didn't know that at the time. But we talked about it years later. And we have a beautiful daughter and 4 granddaughters out of that marriage. No regrets there either. I try really hard not to live with regrets. It's hard sometimes, but excuse me. So I did the whole 9 yards. Everything I was supposed to do. I was an elder, which is just another calling in the church, another step. I was called to be in the elders quorum presidency. And like I said, I'll do a video about what all these things mean. I don't want to get too deep into the minutia of that right here, but I got called into that and I said no, which most people in the LDS church don't say no. You are allowed to. You absolutely are allowed to. It is not a requirement. Don't let anybody tell you it is, because it's not. I stayed active for a while. We got divorced. I started drifting pretty seriously then. That was in 1994. Questioning the faith, questioning my belief in it. I had never really had a really strong conviction. I mean, I was convinced that I did, but I never really felt it. I had no plans of getting married for a long time again. And within about, I guess it was 8 or 9 months, one of my best friends introduced me to his sister-in-law, and we ended up getting married. So one of my best friends is my brother-in-law now. It's pretty cool. And she was in the church, I think out of pressure, but I was on the road all the time, and I started, having a few beers here and there. I was like, why can't I have this on a Friday night and watch some TV or whatever? I started questioning a lot of the principles, the things we were told. There were things in a human being's existence. You have certain needs and urges, and a lot of those urges, you are told when you're in the LDS church, are immoral and sins. And I don't need to get into depth on that. I mean, premarital sex is absolutely forbidden. So with my wife, who I've been married to now for 30 years, she caught on fairly quickly that I was really not into it. We tried going to church. I baptized my oldest daughter, who's now 35, but they didn't really want to let me because I didn't go to church when I was on the road. And you have certain requirements you have to fulfill. And I just wasn't living up to those. But we drifted further and further, and it wasn't too long before we both decided this isn't really for us. Sundays were always our worst day. Excuse me. We argued all the time on Sunday, getting ready for church, just getting the kids ready, fighting, arguing. And it wasn't a fun experience. I'm going to stop for a second here, clear my throat, and get a drink. I'll be right back. It became pretty clear that neither one of us was really into being Mormon anymore. And we just went to church less and less and less until probably about 25 years ago, it just stopped altogether. I've been to church a few times since then for when a baby is born in the Mormon Church, they give it what's called a blessing, which kind of makes them a member of the church, give them a name. It's their given name. I'm not talking about some weird secret thing. We've been to some of those things for family members. When I'm up visiting my parents in Canada, I will occasionally go to church with them because my dad loves it. He is a very staunch Mormon, believes 100%. If you ask him, he's got a complete conviction. He knows exactly what's coming after this life. I've never had that. Most people I know don't have that. Is he right? Well, I don't know. That's debatable, but I respect him. He's the best man I've ever known. He lives with integrity. And so we just drifted away. And as I drifted, so in my family, there are 6 boys and 1 girl, siblings. One of my brothers died when he was a baby. So essentially 5 boys and a girl. Of all of those, there's 1 son that's still in the church. He lives up in Salt Lake City. Most of my family lives in Canada and of course Norway. And, you know, as I drifted away, I never felt any pangs of guilt or like there's a church literally right here outside my fence, a Mormon church. And it's kind of cool because there's no houses built back there, so my yard, for the most part, feels very private. It's all fenced and trees. Once in a while, they have activities in this pavilion right here, but I don't hold any animus towards the church. There are so many good things I learned in that church, values, morals. No matter what anybody tells you, they are good people for the most part. It's like any other group of people, though. There's going to be bad seeds there. And, but I would say, I don't know, 98, 99% of all Mormons I've ever known are just really good people that I would love to have be my neighbor. In fact, I live in a very Mormon community. There are quite a few of us, what they call Jack Mormons, people that basically left the church. I never did take my name off the records. I just don't care. It doesn't mean anything to me. But it's a big deal leaving the church, especially when you have family that's very committed to it. My dad was extremely disappointed when he found out I was leaving. He was never mean to me. He was never demeaning to me. My mom never said much about it, but my dad would kind of get on me every time we talk. I talk to my parents pretty much every week on the phone. They're in their 80s now. And, you know, he would not like ride me about it, but constantly encourage. Until one night he called me, and it must have been a weekend because I'd had a few beers and just had a little bit of liquid courage, and he got into me a little bit again. And I kind of laid into him. You know, I have a lot of respect for my dad, and I don't drink in front of him. He knows I like my beer. I don't drink out of respect in front of him. Basically a weekend drinker, and I had a few, and he called and we started talking, and he started getting a little pushy about it again. And the liquid courage came to the front, and I kind of laid into him and told him, look, Dad, you got to make your decision. You decided to join the Mormon Church. I didn't decide. When you're 8 years old, they tell you you get to choose to be baptized. There was no decision there for me and for most of my friends. 8-year-old is not old enough to decide a lifelong, eternal commitment. I'm sorry, I don't agree with that at all. I didn't at the time. Well, not at the time, but as I got a little older, I was like, 8 years old is ridiculous. But if I'd have said, I don't want to be baptized, my dad would have sat me down and we'd have had to come to Jesus. And I'd have been baptized regardless. So yeah, I kind of laid into him about how he made his decisions. It's only fair that I get to make mine too. I don't feel what you feel about this church. I don't feel like it's the only true church on earth. That's a little offensive to me and to other religions. I think there's a lot of good in a lot of different religions. In fact, probably every religion on earth has some good and some bad in it, some more than others. Won't get into that. But I never felt connected there. I never felt like when I went to church, this is where I belong. Never. This kind of thing is you know what my church is? Nature. We are so into camping and riding and hanging out with friends. That's my temple now. And I don't mean that in a sacrilegious way. It just is. That's where I feel closest to God. And yes, I believe in God. I think God is probably, I don't even know how to say this without coming across as maybe offensive to some of you. So I will just leave it at, I believe in God. I'm not exactly sure what that is. But since we left the church, my wife and I's relationship got better, not worse. We were told, oh, you will regret this decision, blah, blah, blah. Luckily, we live in a community where, yes, there are a lot of Mormons around where I live, but there are a lot of people like me too. It's a big mix, and I love it. There are so many things about the church. I've said I will not go into detail about what happens inside their temples. I made a vow that I would not talk about that. it's not because it's secret. I mean, it is secret, but it's sacred. It's very sacred to them. And even when I was participating in it and I wasn't 100% sure, I felt the sacredness of it. If you can understand what I'm talking about, it's just so deeply ingrained in you. From the time you're a little kid, you go to church 3 hours every Sunday. And back when I was a kid, it was 2 hours. You would have sacrament meeting, which is where people would give talks, and you take the sacrament, the water and the bread representing Jesus. And then you would have Sunday school, where you'd go, different age groups would go to different classes. But I think it was Thursday for us, they had what was called primary for little kids, and we would go after school for like an hour for that. They eventually combined all three of those together on Sunday, and I think that's how it still is. And I always had friends, close friends, my best friends were in the church, but most of them have left, including a friend that if you'd have bet me $100,000, my house, that he would never leave the church, I would have bet it. That's a guarantee. Him and my dad, I would say, will never, ever leave the church. And a couple of years ago, he reached out to me and said, we left the church. I was blown away. I was like, I got to have more detail. It's more common than a lot of people realize. There are 17 million Mormons in the world right now, but that includes a lot of people like me that haven't been to church in decades, because I haven't taken my name officially off the records. I'm sorry, I have a bad back. I got to stretch for just a second. I will be right back. So I guess kind of in conclusion, as far as if you're someone that is LDS now, but you don't feel at home there, you're worried what family and friends are going to think, and I get it. Trust me, I get it. There's a lot of peer pressure, and I don't think that's just in the Mormon Church. I think if you're part of an organized religion that you practice daily and weekly, there's a draw to it. It was a social thing as well as a spiritual, religious thing. And it's hard to just walk away. But I guess my advice would be follow your heart. If your heart tells you this isn't for you, then it probably isn't. And I'm not trying to lead anybody astray. You do what's right for you. And I know lots of Mormons that are very devout and go to church every week and do everything they're supposed to do. I know a lot of Mormons that are very devout in public, not so much in private. That I don't understand. I was always of the belief, if I'm going to be in this church and participate in it, then I'm going to live the rules. Otherwise, what's the point? Because people don't see you, God sees you. He knows what's going on. So I never understood that. To me, it's like, just have the courage to walk away if you're really not into it. But there are people that it's very hard to do. And there's a lot of family pressure, peer pressure, friend pressure. Like I said, it's not just a religious thing. It is a social organization as well. Very much so. They have activities. I played church basketball all the time. There's activities going on all the time. They have scouting camps. They have activities for young women. My mom was a young women's leader up in Canada for 10 years. So I guess I would say I do not regret any of it. Wait, that's not true. You know what? I'm going to add a little more onto this video, because there is pressure that gets put on you as, let's say, a 15 to 18-year-old boy, man. We have urges, we have desires, and those urges and desires are in the church, we're taught that we're supposed to resist those. And my question is, well, who gave me these urges? God, right? But then I'm supposed to fight against them all the time. That seems like an odd thing. It seems almost cruel. That let me put it this way. I was so scared off when I was young about, premarital sex, even fooling around. And I don't need to go into detail on that. You know what I'm talking about. That I was a pretty straight arrow, because I literally thought I would go to hell if I did that kind of stuff. And I don't appreciate that. So I guess I do have a regret. I don't appreciate the pressure that gets put on young people. And then if you do something sinful, you need to go in and talk one-on-one. And I think they've changed this. I pray they changed that. I've heard they did. Like a 14-year-old girl doesn't go in alone with some 45-year-old man to confess her sins, sexual sins. That's awful. And I did that. Several times I had to have interviews when I went on a mission, and they get into the minutia of your life. And I was never comfortable with that. I was like, how dare you ask me that? That's none of your freaking business. And yeah, I was a really scared boy/young man. It wasn't, yeah, it took me a long time to get over that. And even now, like I told that story a week and a half ago, my freaky story that a lot of you said I just didn't do enough detail on, and I apologize for that. I have a hard time telling that story. But my upbringing, I have fears that I've fought. I'm 62 years old now. I have fears that I've fought my whole life because of that religious upbringing. Oh, that's wrong. Oh, this is evil. Oh, you can't do that. You can't say this. You can't speak about this. And boy, it's coming out. Yeah, I don't like that. I don't like the pressure that gets put on young people. It turned out as I got older that a lot of my friends did a lot of the things that we were not supposed to do, that were very sinful. Went and, you had to go confess to a bishop or a stake president, and then you'd be absolved of your sins, kind of like confession in the Catholic Church. But with us, the person is sitting there right in front of you. There's no beaded curtain or I don't mean offense. I don't know a ton about the Catholic Church, but in movies and TV shows, there's always a priest behind, he's shaded. That's not how it was with us. We're looking right at the person. And I can't even imagine being a 13 or 14-year-old girl having to do that. That's horrific. It's wrong. Whew. Wow. I hadn't thought about some of that stuff in a long time. If you got this far, thank you very much. There seems to be interest in this. So I may go into some of the detailed workings of the church. Like I said, I won't go into their sacred stuff. I won't, out of respect. And I still have great respect for that church. Most of the things I learned, I still carry with me to this day. It teaches you morals and treating people right and not stealing, just being a good person, a good neighbor, a good friend, a good husband, a good wife, a good son, all those things. Most of the church is very healthy. Some of those things I just spoke about, to me, are not. So I'd love to hear your opinions. I'd love reading stories of similar experiences. Let me know what you think. Thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. It's fun watching this thing grow. And I'm going to get onto other topics. It's not just going to be Mormon this, Mormon that. I have so many stories I want to tell, fun stories. I want to talk about cruising as a teenager that they don't do anymore. There's so many things I want to talk about. So I will get to those in later videos. But for now, I thank you. Tack för denna gången. Vi ser igen nästa gång. Thank you for this time. We'll see you again next time. I wish you nothing but peace and love.